have all I could need, but not everything I want. You may say I have reached the stars and I found none. My dreams are my own, but I can't do this alone. I need everyone I can get to make my dreams become.
Hello, my name is Anthony DiRigello. My pronouns are he/him, and I am a young white man with short light brown hair, sitting in a black wheelchair, and using a non-invasive ventilator to assist with breathing. I'm 29 years old and live with a muscle-weakening rare genetic disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. 2 years ago, the pandemic made it more difficult for me to connect with my friends, family, and other people living with a rare disease like my own. I'm so grateful to have attended the One Rare Experience, a virtual rare disease conference, because that is where I met the co-founder of our Odyssey, Seth Rotberg, at a social meetup he was hosting. I cannot put into words how it felt to talk with other young adults about what I was dealing with. I was no longer alone. I had 20 new friends, and it felt like I had known them my entire life. Our Odyssey is the main reason I am still so positive and empowered, even after my difficult week in the hospital last November when I had my feeding tube installed. As I lay awake all night, unable to sleep, I thought about our Odyssey. Every blood test, every day without food or water, every tear I cried. The memories of our Odyssey gave me the courage to keep fighting, keep on hoping, to hold on and to survive, to take on the world.
'Cause nothing's gonna stop me, no one's gonna slow me down. Nothing's gonna scare me, no one's gonna let me down. You may think it fazed me, and that may be true. I'm ready to take on the world with you. I'm ready to take on the world and take on the world.
I am a board member of Our Odyssey, a nonprofit that connects young adults impacted by a rare chronic condition with social and emotional support. Since its founding, Our Odyssey has been able to serve about 500 young adults annually, over 130 different rare and/or chronic conditions, 36 states, and 4 countries. Through programming such as social meetups, interactive educational workshops, Our Odyssey provides a reminder that no young adult should feel isolated and that we're all in this together. We invite you to take on the world with us, because this is not my Odyssey, not your Odyssey, it's our Odyssey. There are so many ways you can be a part of this journey. Join us today at ourodyssey.org. Thank you.
Nothing's gonna stop me, no one's gonna slow me down. Nothing's gonna scare me, no one's gonna let me down. You may think it fazed me, and that may be true. I'm ready to take on the world and take on the world with you. I'm ready to take on the world and take on the world with you. I'm ready to take on the world and take on the world with you. Are you ready to take on the world and take on the world with me?
Hello, and welcome. I'm Megwyn Sanders-Andrews, Executive Director of Our Odyssey. Our mission is connecting young adults impacted by a rare or chronic health condition with social and emotional support in the hope of improving their quality of life. We are so very pleased that you are able to join us today for this live stream on accessible arts, community, connection, and creativity. I want to give such special thanks to the generous sponsors who support these live streams, Albareo and Ipsen Company, and BioMarin. We also want to give our heartfelt thanks to all of our supporters, including Horizon Therapeutics, Alexion Charitable Foundation, the Global Genes Mental Health Impact Grant, Travere Therapeutics, Sarepta Therapeutics, Town Fair Tire, and all of our generous individual donors. A few announcements about upcoming events. Our Odyssey holds social meetups for young adults with rare and chronic health conditions twice a month. We also offer a life skills workshop series gaming, and music live streams, and an expressive arts program that we'll be talking a little bit more about today. If you want any information about any of our programs or any of our upcoming events, please check out our website at ourodyssey.org. And if you enjoy the live stream today, I encourage you to join us next month as well. Next month's live stream is on September 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern. The topic will be on disability identity and performance. Our guests will include performer Daisy Billity and Reagan Linton, theater artist and filmmaker. It will also include a screening of a portion of a documentary film called Imperfect. So again, welcome to this live stream where we will be talking about the benefits of expressive arts. I'm going to invite Amber to talk to us a little bit.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me for this talk. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. My name is Amber. My Zoom room, you can see me. I'm wearing this kind of mustard yellow colored jumpsuit. I've got some books and plants on the shelf behind me, and I'm sorry, but my cat is definitely going to be interrupting me. So don't be surprised if you see a little gray cat come in the screen. And I just wanted to share very quickly a little bit with you so you can know what we're going to be doing today. We're here to talk about the healing benefits of art, of expressive art making. We're going to be making some good points from our experience and some research. And then how we're going to be getting there, that's where we're going. How we're going to be getting there is that we are going to be making art so that it's experiential and you can experience it for yourself. And we're also going to talk about some strategies where you can make this a daily practice for you and your wellness journey. And then next slide, here's a nice little photo of me when I was in Minnesota. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm an art therapist and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I always consider myself an artist first, because it was really art that led me to this path of figuring out what art therapy is and knowing that I wanted to study that. I work with Loyola Marymount University. I'm zooming in from California here today. So I'm representing LMU. I work in our clinic there. I supervise new therapists. And I'm also starting a consulting business where I'm working on getting more therapeutic art opportunities in learning environments. So thanks for having me.
Great. My name is Megwyn, and I am a middle-aged white woman with long brown hair, wearing white headphones and a black shirt in front of a really blank wall. I have spent 20 years at the intersection of the arts and disability. I have spent so much time, it's been a privilege to spend so much time working with groups, communities that may face barriers to participation in the arts and making space for folks to tell their stories in creative, compelling, authentic ways. I am passionate about arts and accessibility and inclusion for arts and audiences. I love collaborating on devised theater pieces. And as I mentioned, I'm also the executive director of Our Odyssey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dinewo, and I'm a member of Epic Arts. So art has been a lifelong love of mine. And as a young adult who lives with chronic illness and disability, Epic Arts has been a wonderful way for me to practice art therapeutically, in community, and just develop further my art practice as well as caring for myself as a disabled young adult. I love to learn new art techniques, and I love to express myself through all kinds of art forms like writing, crafting, and comedy. Outside of art, my passions are disability justice, my education, and childcare.
Lovely. I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to tell you very briefly, just a little bit. I mentioned that I am an art therapist, and sometimes people will say, like, art therapy, what is that? Maybe you've never heard of that before. And art therapy and expressive art making, what's the difference? And just a quick little slide here to share with you that art therapy is a career, something that you can study. It requires a master's degree and a license to practice. So whenever I'm talking about expressive art, I really like to make that distinction for folks so that they know that if there is something that's really, really deep for you that you feel like you'd like to process in a therapeutic space, meaning with a therapist, there's a QR code there, an art therapist locator. It's always a good idea if you want to do some trauma work that you would take that route. But you may be wondering, well, what can I do on my own? And there are definitely a lot of things that you can do on your own, right? Art is our first language. We learn to sing, to hum, to tap, to dance when we're little babies before we even have words. And so this is nothing new, right? Humans have been painting on caves, telling stories and sharing stories. So when you're taking the approach of a solo practice where it helps you decrease anxiety, it is a really great tool for you for the umbrella of wellness. And then I'm going to set the tone here, I hope, for the rest of our workshop or our session today that we're having together. This is Bob Ross. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, you can Google videos on YouTube of him painting, and it's the most soothing thing you'll ever see. But one thing he said was no mistakes, just happy accidents. And so whenever I'm getting people excited about making art, I will tell them your first step is to quiet your inner critic, because at some point in life, perhaps you didn't feel like you were creative, or you didn't feel like you were good at art. And expressive art making is really focusing on the process. So I will ask everybody today, if we can all have that agreement, that we will practice beginner mind and approach this as art making that feels good, that inspires us to keep making art. And we're going to have a first little exercise in how we do this. So this is just a little demonstration of how useful art making can be when we just want to check in. And so this prompt is very simple. Yes, Megwyn?
Can I just chime in to say that I'm using an Epic Arts art kit. So I've got fun little drawing materials here. So artists in the Epic Arts program, we send out a little art kit that's just like a get started kit. So this is the first opportunity I've had to use one of our fun kits.
Love that. Yes. And I will be muting myself because I understand there's a little bit of an echo. So I'm going to try to mute myself when I'm not speaking. So grab yourself a mark making tool and a blank piece of paper. And this is just a moment to like free associate with imagery. And I will ask you to just make a scribble that represents maybe the day that you've had so far or where you're at right now. All right, so I'll tilt my screen, and of course yours won't look like mine, but here we go. Good idea to take a nice breath first. All right. And I will say, don't spend too much time thinking about it. Just go for it. All right. Do you want to share with us, Megwyn and Dino?
Sure.
What's yours look like? Thank you. Yeah. I mean, mine's a little swirly. It kind of represents a little bit of the sound issue we were having. How about you, Megwyn?
So I just really like talking about what we're talking about today. So this is just, my scribble is supposed to just sort of be happy because I love spreading the word about the amazingness of participating in the arts.
You are on mute. Sorry.
I apologize. I made a scribble with my pen and I just moved my arm in a way that kind of just represented how I was feeling. I just thought about how I was feeling and I just moved it out and moved the pen around, and I feel like that was just a helpful way to just get out some energy.
Great. So there's a little example, right? It's something you can do any time of the day. You can do it on the side of your notebook, wherever you are. So just a few points that I want to make. In the conversation about why do I want to do this? Why is this a good idea for me? There is a wealth of research happening that can really demonstrate the connection between creativity and mental health. And so there's a book that's called Your Brain on Art, and it's at the end of this slideshow in case you would like to read more about it. But they talk about something called the aesthetic mindset. It's this idea that aesthetics around you, like the things that are around you, the color of your wall, the plants around you, it's like something that can help you with awareness of the impact that these things have on you. They have a lot more impact than we all realize. And art is an incredible mindfulness practice. There's this idea about this zone in versus zone out idea of making art. Zoning in meaning we are really mindful and present of like the emotion and the feeling that we want to express. And then zoning out, where we get into this creative flow. And like when I'm on the potter's wheel, it's just like time slips away. Or, those adult coloring books are a good example of this. And the research has really shown that it's really doing something for your brain. It's increasing theta wave activity in the frontal areas of your brain. And a study at Drexel University found that people can lower the levels of the hormone cortisol, by spending just 45 minutes of making art. So they actually have a decent amount of research that confirms this. And not only that, right? We don't need a scientist to tell us that it feels good. It helps us express ourselves. It helps us identify our unique perspective and share it with others. And in doing that, it connects us to other people. So we've got the mental processing. It strengthens our mental awareness. The physiological things that happen in our bodies when we're making art, because we're engaging all of our senses. And then it's also doing things at a biological level, where it's helping our neurons make new connections. For example, when we might have that feeling of, I'm not an artist, that's based in some fear there. There's some wiring, there's a belief system there. There might be a memory that's connected to that. So doing this helps you with those neural pathways. And then, of course, meaning making. We can think about the future. We can process things that haven't happened yet. We can visualize problems before they've happened. And it can help us just make sense of our social world and what we see around us and what we want to change in our environments. And therefore, it leads us to this social justice work that we can do with the art process, like what you see in protest art and matters such as that. So those are just some points that I wanted to make. Dineo, I'm curious if you resonate with any of that, because I know you mentioned some work around social justice as well.
Yes. So what I've learned, being disabled and connecting with the disabled community mainly through online forums where we have the opportunity to, no matter where we live, no matter whether or not we can get out of our house, to, or no matter who lives near us, to connect with people from all over the world who go through all different kinds of disabilities, illnesses, rare diseases. I've learned that art is something that's very common in our community as a way for us to express ourselves. And I was talking to Megwyn how this opportunity that we have in Epic Arts is so special because there are not very many forums that allow especially young adults to speak about their experiences with disability. Disability is not something that is widely very understood by society nor accepted, and it's especially something that is not seen as normal or with young adults. So for me to be able to have a space where it's encouraged to do art that shares about my personal experience, that lets me hear what my peers go through, that lets us support each other. Those kind of environments are really helpful because I've learned that for me personally and other disabled people I've come in contact with, especially young adults, we find writing, doing visual arts, making zines as a very therapeutic way to be able to process what we go through and share that with the world and help other people like us know we're validated. What we go through is normal. We have people who understand us. And it's also a really great awareness tool to help people who don't go through similar experiences understand it and gain empathy for it.
Yesterday when we were chatting, you told me that you considered your art to be really vital to did you say your healing but vital to sort of vital to you?
Yeah, I definitely both. Definitely for me, art is necessary to life. When I started becoming I was born with my genetic illness. So when I started becoming more disabled around the age of a preteen, I learned that doing art the typical way that I had learned, like holding a pen the way that they taught me and doing fine motor things, and I learned that that was difficult and I could not do things the same way I had always done them my whole life. So no one taught me about adaptive arts. No one taught me about modifications. No one taught me about assistive technology. So unfortunately, I did not know how to continue spinning on a wheel if my fingers were dislocating. I did not know how to continue beading and making jewelry if my hands were cramping up. So I stopped doing art for some years, and life honestly felt incomplete without it. It felt harder for me to cope with the hard things because art, I learned, was not just a hobby and a fun thing and a passion for me. It was also healing for me. It was a way for me, like Amber was saying, to calm myself mentally, to connect with myself, to ground myself. And it was also a way for me to help process things I go through. So now I'm in the process of learning how to do art in a way that works for me. I'm learning how to modify things. And I'm learning that, okay, if I can't always do what I want with a pencil, let me teach myself digital art. If I can't always do what I want with a stylus, let me try to learn how to use assistive softwares for that. Let me try. It's also helped me be more creative in my daily life because when you have to adapt things, you learn a certain type of resourcefulness and resilience in life. So I feel like art for me really reflects what life is like as a disabled person. You truly just have to keep working at things to make it work, and that's where you get the beauty of it.
That's
That's
wonderful.
amazing. I just want to share that in our session the other day, Dineo made art with her cell phone, and that was so amazing, right? I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I'd love to share it with you guys. So this was the first official digital art I made that was from a prompt, and I learned from a group member in our session, which that's another thing that's extremely helpful for me, being with peers who can teach me, who I can get inspiration from. So I learned that if you use the Notes app on your phone, that's a simple way to just use your finger as a stylus. So I just pulled up the drawing tool, and this was a process activity where I was able to just use different lines and colors to express my feelings. And this was really helpful because it was more accessible for me. It was actually fun to use a brand new medium, and I felt like I still could connect to the topic at hand and participate. And another great thing about this group that I really value is the level of support that you get. To try something new was nerve-wracking, and to have people there to guide me, encourage me, and also get something from my art was extremely valuable to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, I would like to talk just a little bit about theater, drama, and performance. So I want to sort of start out by just giving a little bit of a caveat about my identity, that I don't identify as a person with a disability or a rare or chronic health condition. And so while I am going to be talking about the arts in reference to those populations, I also just want to be sure to state very outright that I'm not an authority in any way on the lived experience of what it's like to live with a disability or a rare chronic health condition. And the people who do live with those conditions are always already the experts. So I never want to, I'm always present to listen and facilitate, but never speak for. So just a little bit of what these three terms are. So theater is what most people think of when they think about theater, like putting on a show, putting on a play. I was once at a conference, and there was an actor with autism who was speaking, and he said that he went to the theater because he thought it's where all the quirky people are. And he was like, everybody fits in there because it's where all the quirky people are. Drama, I'm going to define as play with a purpose. So if theater is about the product, I've got a bar and let's put on a show, then drama is about the process. Play with a purpose is often used in classrooms to enhance academic and social emotional learning. I've also used it, for example, in college workshops, where I would use some of Bawal's work to think about how we can do conflict resolution by creating the conflict as scenes, as a scene, and then practicing ways to intervene with that. Bawal described his work as rehearsal for real life. Actually, I think it was rehearsal for the revolution, but I like rehearsal for real life. So we would sort of work on rehearsing interventions for conflict resolution. So that was process-based drama. Then performance, for today at least, I'm going to talk about it as the power of telling your story. So storytelling is really what's at the core of theater. Theater and drama both are about telling stories. So there are lots of ways that you can do storytelling in performance. Autobiographical storytelling can be the basis of a performance. You can perform stories, poems, representations of historical characters. I really like doing devised theater, which is where a group of people collaborates to make a performance together based on their ideas, their thoughts, their lived experiences. There's really one of the reasons why I am so invested in this is because of the way that James Thompson describes it. He is a drama expert, and he describes drama, theater and drama and performance as it's a face-to-face interaction. And these face-to-face interactions where we're telling the stories that make us who we are function as a call to the audience to see and respect the humanity of the performer. So working together, playing together in these face-to-face interactions fosters care, a deep sense of curiosity, respect, and collaboration, and again, that humanizing of the other. I will say that we are launching a storytelling program at our Odyssey. Our Odyssey is advised by a young adult programming council, and they really wanted us to do some work with storytelling because there is so much power in telling your story. So we're going to be launching that. I wondered too if I can invite Dinewo to talk a little bit about why that's important for young adults with disabilities or rare or chronic conditions.
Hi. So I personally, I guess connecting to what I previously said, personally, I find telling my own story to be healing because I'm able to look at everything I've been through and I guess write my narrative, my own narrative in a way that's relevant and empowering to me. I personally love any form of storytelling. I love stand-up comedy. I love writing. I love script writing. And I am trying to learn how to do that with my personal disability journey because I don't know, when I'm able to like go through and talk about what I've been through, it helps me process it therapeutically and understand myself more and kind of gain a purpose from everything and heal some painful parts as well. But it also helps me communicate to, this is the part that I really appreciate, that it helps me communicate to my fellow disabled community what I've gone through. It helps me ask for help. It helps me kind of gain that type of community and solidarity from understanding that other people have been through similar things. And when I learn from others who have done the same, I gain so much insight on my own life. I gain insight about what the larger disability community has to go through and what they've experienced. And I also appreciate the fact that it's really helpful for, you know, I wish this wasn't something that I felt like I had to be a thing, but I like, one of the things that's really important for me is I really hope that one day I can create art that can reach, even if it's just people in my current life that I know, even if it's a wider audience. I want people to understand disability more from disabled perspectives, because most of the time our stories are told from people looking at us from the outside, maybe making assumptions based on what they know, what they've seen, but disabled voices are rarely uplifted, and people sometimes don't know. A lot of times they don't know what disabled people go through if you haven't heard from a disabled person, or heard, in my opinion, it's very important to hear multiple disabled perspectives. So I feel like that's an incredible thing that's important for awareness, for understanding, just to make us better people, to learn more about the world around us.
Absolutely. Thank you. So just like with our sort of scribble warm-up, we're going to do a quick drama warm-up. So I'm going to invite you to grab a few objects from wherever you are, the room you're in. Just you can grab whatever. I maybe 4 or 5 and just gather them to you. I'm going to pause for like 1 minute while I gather my own. And if you're watching this live or if you're catching it on a replay, just take a minute to gather. It doesn't matter what they are. Just gather some objects. So I'm going to gather. Great. So I have a scarf because drama teaching artists, I think, always have scarves. So I'm representing, I have a scarf. I have a little cardinal. I have a bunny doing yoga. I have a hat. And I have a Barbie, a chicken farmer Barbie. So now, the question is, well, I'm going to want you to say a sentence. You need to think about something that you've always wanted to be or something that you've always wanted to do. You can use your actual name or you can make up a name. It's up to you. But then we're going to use one of these objects to demonstrate who we are with that sentence. So your line is, my name is blank. And I always wanted to do or be blank. And I need you to use one of your objects to illustrate that. So I'm going to start with, my name is Megwyn. And I always wanted to be a singer in a band. That one's mine. Tanewo, do you have one?
Yes, I'm thinking, okay. Okay, so I have some chalk here. My name is Dinewo, and I have always wanted to make art a huge part of my life and create something that I really love and I'm proud of.
Nice, thanks. I think Amber might be, Amber, are you, got your screen off?
I don't think so. Is it off? I'm here.
Do you have an object?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My name is Amber, and I've always wanted to be a flamenco dancer.
I don't even need to see it to love it. Good. Thanks. So I'm going to talk a little bit. As I mentioned, I have one of the things that I really love talking about is arts and access. And one of the reasons why my background is in theater and drama is because theater and drama offer so many points of access for anyone who wants to be a part of it to experience the benefits of participating in the creative process. A lot of times I talk about access in terms of universal design or universal design for learning. And with universal design for learning, you want to provide many points of access for participants to get information, give information, and engage in the activity. Drama inherently does that. So, for example, I was working in a summer camp at a children's theater, and there was a camp that was called Too Many Frogs, based on the children's book, Too Many Frogs. One day, one of the kiddos in the camp was absolutely having a meltdown. So the teaching artist, came to talk to the kiddo, came to figure out what was wrong. The teaching artist met the kiddo where the kiddo was, which was under a table, where the kiddo was just so upset. And when they got to the reason was, the kiddo said, it's just that there's too many frogs. I want to be a shark. So that's the beauty of drama, is that you can be a shark if you want to be a shark. Creative drama offers a framework, but within that framework, it offers enough flexibility that participants can make many different choices in any given moment. So any participant can choose to join in the way that works best for them, or make the choices that are most engaging for them. Amber, if you'll excuse me for doing this, I'm going to make a observation about visual art, because to me, it feels like the same thing. There's no wrong way to make art. Anyone can engage in the artistic process in the way that works best for them. Theater, if we're thinking about theater like in a more formal play setting, it works the same way. You don't want to be on stage. You don't want to be in the spotlight. Be a stagehand, run the lights, make a costume, make a prop. There's so many ways for people to be involved. The reason, or one of them, why this is so important is one that Dinewo, you spoke to so beautifully earlier about creating community. There's just something about making art together that really promotes community. I talk a lot. I was part of a teaching artist residence in a facility for juveniles, a residential facility for juveniles. And we were doing a lot of sort of tactile art. And it's just amazing how much more the conversation flows when you're focusing on doing the art while you're talking. It just sort of opens up that space for community and connection. There are so many benefits to it. It's a whole brain activity that encourages the active processing of experience in the moment. So I'm not going to list all of the studies, but I'm just going to give you sort of a list of some of the benefits that we know you get from participating in theater and drama. It boosts confidence and self-esteem. It promotes empathy by helping participants understand the emotional landscape of others. It betters both academic and social emotional skills. It nurtures self-expression and self-concept. It teaches emotional regulation. It trains critical and creative thinking skills. It develops collaborative and problem-solving skills. And it improves the participant's capacity for conflict resolution. So those are some benefits of participating in theater and drama. I'm a little bit fascinated too by some of the physical benefits that come out of the visual arts. I know that the visual arts, and I feel like it's easy to feel that the visual arts can offer strategies for decreasing stress and anxiety, but participation in the visual arts also increase socialization, self-awareness, and self-confidence. And they may even do things like reduce inflammation and improve circulation. So going back to this idea of, in addition to all of those benefits, just being in community is such a really important thing. You're always working together and working collaboratively in the arts. So whether you're working together to do a drama, put on a play, you're part of an open studio group, you're creating community and combating isolation. This is particularly important for groups such as people with disabilities, people with rare diseases, people with chronic illnesses. There's some studies that show that folks with disabilities and health diagnoses are disproportionately isolated, that they experience loneliness, low perceived social support, and social isolation at significantly higher rates. For example, rare patients often struggle not only to find the appropriate specialists, but to connect with peers who are managing the same health struggles. Low social connectedness is associated with lower well-being. those who are isolated are at increased risk for both mental and physical challenges. Just a few months ago, I think in May, the Surgeon General gave a warning on loneliness and isolation for the general public. One of the things that report says is that lacking social connection can increase the risk for premature death as much as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So I think we think about this building community and connection as something that's really nice to have, but it's fascinating to me the way that we can make this concrete, that it has concrete health benefits for us. Just a small increase in the resources we have through our social connections increases our sense of ourselves as having good health by 26%. People who feel connected to their communities report that they feel better than those that don't. So again, such an important thing about it is that it's creating, lots and lots of benefits, but also this creation of community and connection. I'm going to go back again to something that you said so beautifully, Dinewo, which is there's a phrase that's really well known in the disability community: nothing about us without us. You referenced this. 1 in 5 people in the US have a disability, but only 2% of characters in the media that we watch have disabilities. And of those characters with disabilities, 95% are played by actors without disabilities. There are so many examples of disability representation by people without disabilities. One of the ones that I particularly like to talk about is the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. It's both a novel and a play that was on Broadway. So I saw the Broadway production twice with once for each of the actors that was playing the role. And it's a fascinating production, but the character with autism was played by an actor without autism. They also were creating this experience of autism on the stage because they wanted to show what it was like inside Christopher's head. That's the main character with autism. And one of the things that they did was sort of put him at a right angle to everyone else. So again, really fascinating to watch, but it was a group that was dominated by people without disabilities, creating a representation of disability on the stage. It's so vital this is part of why it's so vital that people with disabilities, people with rare and chronic health conditions tell their stories in whatever way they decide to, right? Through visual art, through drama, through talking up on the Hill, through blogs, through songs. But that's just a little bit of my thinking about why it's so important. There's a theater in Denver called Family Theater. I referenced that we have another live stream in a month. The former artistic director of Family Theater is one of our presenters. Family Theater is a disability affirmative theater. So one of the founders, her name is Kathleen Traylor. One of the reasons that they founded it in the 1980s, and I quote, "Back then they could figure out how to get a life-size elephant on the stage, but a wheelchair always baffled them." So disability is so often, unfortunately, framed as a deficit, but storytelling, performance, family, and theaters like them give such an opportunity to reframe disability as a creative asset. So one of Family Theater's productions was called Morph Masters, and it intertwined the stories of family actors with disabilities with the narratives of famous artists with disabilities. So, for example, Beethoven did not see his deafness as an asset, but he created some of his most extraordinary work after he became mostly deaf. So Morph Masters sort of puts that lens on it, that Beethoven's story becomes an invitation to shift that perspective on disability from something that impedes the artistic process to something that can heighten it. I have a few notes about accessibility. So as a drama teaching artist, again, I practice UDL. I give lots of different ways for participants to get information from me, to give information back to me, and engage in the process. It might be something as simple as providing a visual guide, offering multiple ways for participants to express themselves, or just giving lots of different options. It's all about giving ways for participants to be part of the process in the way that suits them best. The most powerful tool in my toolkit are the words "show me." It moves the drama along. A lot of times people want to tell you, like the go-to is to tell you, and that's great, but then show me. Participants, in my experience, I've worked with a lot of kids. Kids are so smart. So you can just say, show me what you mean. Show me what will help you right now. So again, show me is the most powerful tool in my toolbox. I also put a little QR code down here because if you're interested, there is a person named Melanie Malson who created a nearly comprehensive guide to creating an accessible theater. It's really great. I highly recommend it. If you want to delve more deeply into that, that QR code will take you right to it. I also have just a few notes about some things, basic things that we do in the art studio to make it more accessible as well. Going back to visual guides, if you have art materials, excuse me, if you put a guide on them that shows the steps for how to use them, that provides a point of access. With your labeling, words, a picture, and a tactile guide also provides multiple points of access. We also just put things like rotating trays with art supplies at each table for participants who might find moving around the space to be challenging, over the sink strainers to help participants with sensory sensitivities or limited reach clean their brushes or other tools. There are lots of great ways to provide materials for students who maybe benefit from feeling what they're making, feeling what they're drawing, like using styrofoam, fabric paint, puffy paint, those wax sticks, or quick dry paper. We also, I know Amber has some too, some examples of ways to make adaptive grips, just using simple stuff that you have at home. This is one of my favorites. This is that wrap tape that you can put on injuries, but it sticks to itself. So you can like wrap it around anything and it makes an adaptive grip. And you can build it up to be the perfect size that you need. The other thing that's just people have in their house, this is a handle from a milk jug. I can put a scarf through it to make it less slippy, to make it easier to hold. I can put a drawing utensil in here too, again, to provide a larger grip. So there's, I feel like so many of the adaptive techniques that I know are just because I've had the privilege of working with creative people who are like, let's figure out how to do this. Let's figure out how to do it together. So Dinewo, I wanted to open it up to you. You talked about that you're sort of working on some strategies for yourself for for being able to participate more fully in the artistic process. Are you able to share a little bit more about what that process has been like for you and what you've been coming up with?
I would love to. So the art world, as I'm sure you all know, is largely inaccessible to disabled folks. The world in general is largely inaccessible to disabled folks. And unfortunately, access is an afterthought at best most times. So it's extremely refreshing to be a part of an organization like this as a member that understands that disabled people deserve equal access to every part of life, including art. I've never ever been in a space before that's before being in disabled centered spaces that say, okay, you're an art class and you can't do this the way that the teacher is teaching. How else can you participate? I've just been told, well, I guess you can't do it or try harder. And until I was able to self-educate through researching and communicating with the disabled community. That's when I learned, oh my gosh, assistive technology exists. Adaptations and modifications exist. So I'm still in the very beginning stages of learning. I'm just in that phase where I'm learning that I can't live without art. I need it for joy. I need it for healing. I need it for peace. I need it for grounding. So I'm just now learning those tips that you were sharing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even write it down as fast, like all of those different ways, because I'm constantly having to learn how I can do, as I've said, like, I don't know if I said this, but I've never done a form of art that I have not loved. And I've learned that the art that I don't like is because it's too painful to do. So I'm still honestly learning how to do that. I'm at this point just communicating with other disabled folks and assistive technology groups to learn how can I modify crocheting. So when I'm doing the needle and I know how to make an adaptive grip, but I'm holding another part with my thumb, how do I hold that without my thumb subluxing and being in pain? So I'm trying to like learn that. I'm learning that 3D printing is available at local libraries and that there are potential ways. There are certain organizations that help you create devices and then they can make those more affordable. I'm learning that, you know, there are, like I said, and even assistive technology groups who can help people learn, who are either OTs in training or just disabled people who want to learn access. I'm also learning how in my art process, I can modify, like in Epic Arts group sessions, it's been really helpful. I've noticed me and other participants come in and we're like, okay, well, today's a low vision day. What can we do to access it more? And then we almost brainstorm as a group. Okay, you know, I noticed Amber suggested for my group member, okay, maybe you can use these materials that are more tactile and can give you more feedback. I noticed, okay, there's, you know, we have luckily audio descriptions on Zoom, but we don't have visual descriptions. So let me give a visual description of what I made to help support my group member. I also got the same help when I didn't know how to make digital art to where to start. And my group members were telling me, go on your iPhone, on your notes and click this. I also learned here's another website for free that you can use on computer or phone. And so I'm just trying to think about, as I do processes with art and assignments, okay, the last time we were meeting, I believe it was Thursday, I believe it was last week, I had so much fatigue, I couldn't physically do something, but I wanted to still participate. So I was like, okay, if the assignment is to connect with our senses, what senses can I use right now? I can use the sense of sight. I can go and I can just take some pictures or gather some pictures and I can use that to create my art. So I think it's just about, for me personally, trying to figure out what I can do and branch off from that instead of be like, it also helps to problem solve. Okay, I can't use this. What can I use? What things, what senses, what body parts are working for me today? So I'm also trying to educate myself more about ways that I can do art more adaptively, because I'm learning that even a lot of people who go through the same diagnoses and life experiences as I am, I've asked my friends and they're like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure that out too. So I'm learning that there needs to be a greater, like, more support and resources also available of that nature to disabled folks who want to be able to participate in art in any way they can.
Absolutely. Thank you. Speaking of, we have, I have a small activity that it's a free write. So this is just us sort of thinking about storytelling, thinking about, we sort of ended talking about accessibility and accommodations, but I sort of want to backtrack a little bit to the importance of telling our own stories and the power of telling the narratives of people with disabilities, people with rare disease, people with chronic illness. So I'm going to invite you to free write with me. Please take the term write to be very loose. You can, however you want to do it. We're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. You can, I like to write with a pen, so I'll do that. You can also pull up a screen and type. If you prefer using like a voice memo, you can also just talk for 5 minutes and talk into it. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just about creating 5 minutes of content that is about one of your objects. So one of those objects that you gathered earlier, just choose one. And then Anthony, I think we might have a 5-minute timer. So you're going to create some content about this one object. So it can be describing the object. It can be telling the story behind the object, thinking through what the object means to you, or just whatever comes into your head. Like I said, talk it into a voice memo, type it out, jot it down, do it with pictures if you want, whatever works best for you. We're just sort of looking for free flow content about an object. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Anthony, do we have a timer, or should I set the timer on my phone? Great.
Great.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So, I would like to invite Dinewo, if you're back with us, I'd love to hear something. If you have been working with us on this, what I want you to do next, everyone, is take a look at what you've written or think back to what you spoke. And so whatever way you created your content, I'm going to ask you to come up with 1 noun, 2 action words, 1 complete sentence, 2 adjectives, and 1 summary word. And that's it. That's a poem. It's a poem that's maybe will give us some small insight into you. It can be silly, it can be serious, it can be whatever you want, but I'm going to give just a few minutes so it's 1 noun, 2 action words, 1 sentence, 2 adjectives, and 1 summary word. I can share mine, although it's very, I chose this hat. This is my hat. And so I did my free write about the hat. And this is my poem. Hat. Swimming, playing. We made cherry dumplings over the fire. Joyous, snuggly camping. Dinewo, do you have one to share, or Amber?
Sure, I can share one. Also, am I way too dark?
You are a little dark, but I know you're going to show us some artwork. So maybe when we see your artwork, we might need to worry about it. But otherwise, I think it's okay.
Okay, thank you. I just noticed I was getting more of a migraine attack with it on, so I was like, I'll turn it on when I show you guys. Okay. So I was digging around in my bag to get objects for inspiration, and one of the things that I picked up was a mask that I keep on me. And so I decided, since I wrote about the chalk, let me write about that. So my the free write poem is a mask. Protect, care. I wear a mask for the safety of my community and myself. Necessary, conscientious, pandemic.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you. So that's, again, just a small example, I think, of something just simple, right? That also can become really performative and just provides maybe a little window into our experiences.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed your poem so much. I'm not sure if you can see me, but I believe you can hear me, which is totally fine. One time I had to do a whole summer camp with some students who were in juvenile hall, and it was during the pandemic, and there was no option to turn cameras on, and we had to do a whole arts programming for an entire week without seeing any of the art. And I have to say, it was one of the most amazing experiences because of what happens when we project, right? When we see other people's artworks, we find all of these meanings. So it ended up being a really interesting experience where they just got to speak, like, you say what your art means. So anyway, we will adapt. And so I wanted to guide you all through a directive that I like to do called the Journey Directive. this is a really good practice in abstraction. And when you start making art, sometimes you get really hooked on the outcome, right? I mean, in my life, when I started figuring out like, oh, unhook from the outcome, it was such a game changer for me. I let go of this idea that my art had to be a certain way. And so we're going to be exploring just what if your art is just the way it is and it's exactly as it's supposed to be. And so we are going to do that practice of, instead of feeling like we need any kind of realism, photorealism, we're just going to connect to lines, shapes, colors, textures, right? I was really feeling inspired by some of those examples we brought up. So I will invite you to first follow along with me as I read for you a little bit of a meditation, a guided visualization. And with any visualization or meditation, remember that our brains are very active. You might feel distracted, and just anchor yourself again with one of your senses so that you can try as much as possible to stay centered and grounded in this space together. And return, right? Return if you go off and you start thinking about other things. That's okay. Be gentle on yourself. So I will invite you to sit in an upright position, and we'll just have a couple of those anchoring breaths where we can ground ourselves to the current moment. And maybe a couple of cleansing breaths would feel good for you. You are welcome to close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you, but you can also just focus your gaze in front of you. Feet flat on the floor. And try to let go of your focus. I'm going to prompt you to think back on your life. Think of a time you accomplished something really great, but it was not easy at first. At first, you could not do it. You were upset, angry, frustrated because you were having a hard time. Search for that time in your mind's eye. What were you feeling? Were you angry, upset, or sad? Did you want to give up? And what did those feelings look like? If you could draw this feeling, what would it look like? What color would it be? What would the lines look like? Are they dark, thick lines? Or are they thin, light lines? Would it be big shapes or little shapes? What color would those shapes be? And how can you visualize that frustration you were experiencing? Now think back to how you overcame that challenge. What was your journey? Did you get help from a supportive person in your life? What steps did you take to get through it? Did you feel like quitting along your journey? What kept you going? What does that journey look like? How do you represent those steps? How long was your journey? Think about the colors as you progress. How do the lines and shapes change as you feel more comfortable with your journey? Now think about the time when you accomplished your goal. You did it. You succeeded and overcame the problem. How do you feel now that it's over? Think about the colors, lines, shapes, textures, space, values. Take a look at your entire journey from frustration to success as you're visualizing this in your mind's eye, and see how it changed as you travel along the path and what stands out. Now, everybody, we can open our eyes back to the group, and hopefully you went on a journey just in your mind. And now we have the opportunity to take that journey that was coming up in our minds and put them on the page. So we will take, I think, I'm thinking maybe like a good 10 minutes to represent that. So that's not a lot of time. I want to let everybody know that, as always, this can be a work in process. So we will go ahead and start. Do we have a timer, or should I set that on my phone?
Okay, I think that was 5 minutes.
Should we do another five?
Yeah, I think we should do another 5. I'm feeling the need for another 5. That's what we And we're back. Hopefully that process was relaxing to you. We also have to keep in mind that sometimes art making isn't relaxing. Sometimes we get a better awareness of frustration. I say all of those things are okay too, acknowledging that. But I would share my screen. I don't think it's working, so I will open it up. I would be really interested. This is interesting to see how different everybody's journey will look like. So I will open it up to Megwyn. Okay. What would you like to say about this?
I would say that I have a sort of difficult time silencing my inner critic. That it resonates with me. The slide that you spoke about silencing your inner critic. I have to work really hard at that. And one of the strategies that I use for that is actually I really enjoy how like a pencil feels on paper, or like playing around with some of the mechanics of how you make the marks is one of the ways that like I just focus on that so that I don't think so much about, again, that's what I do to try to get past my inner critic.
Thank you for sharing. And Dineo, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. So let me pull up what I did. It's very because today it's more difficult to. I didn't know how to translate the physical prompt into something that was going to be accessible. So I did struggle with that. I wasn't sure how to do a drawing exercise if it's physically painful to draw. So that was hard because I didn't get to like fully participate. But I just did something quick on my phone after I spent the time in the meditation envisioning going from the difficult part of the experience to the part where it became easier. And so I just did, let me try to focus the screen. Okay, so it's not showing clearly on my end, but what I tried to do was at the bottom draw what represented the difficult part of the experience in colors that represented the feelings of like frustration and difficulties, which is reds and oranges. And then with blue, that's a color that means like more ease and peace for me. And then I did the straight lines when I was thinking about the part of the experience that became more fluid and easier and straightforward.
Thank you so much for sharing that and also demonstrating that there is absolutely no wrong way to do any of this, right? And you explored what was accessible for you, and you really kind of took this like real time experiment in real time what you were experiencing. So I really appreciate the way that you modeled that for everybody who's tuning in today.
So I think this is my turn. I do want to let you all know that these are sort of two programs that we have. We have Epic Arts, which you've sort of gotten a taste of with the visual art activities. And then we also are just beginning a storytelling program. So Amber, of course, does our visual arts. I'll be working with storytelling. So if you're interested in either of these programs, they are You are more than welcome to join us. They are open to any young adult, 18 to 35, who identifies as having a rare disease or chronic illness. Free of charge. We do Epic Arts every week. Storytelling will also be a weekly group. Epic Arts is ongoing. We're working with Epic Arts right now. Storytelling is just getting off its feet. So if you are interested in storytelling, the link here just sort of sends you to a sign up. So speaking of these programs, I'm sorry, Amber, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I thought we were going to move to the next slide. Go ahead, Megwyn.
I also wanted to give, just while we were talking about those programs, I was hoping that we might give you, Dinewo, an opportunity that if you wanted to showcase any of your artwork, we'd love to see it.
Sure, I'd love to. And I hope my lighting is better now, despite the cicada noises. Okay. So, it's not very clear, which is okay. I can turn it around and read and describe some of what's on here. But I used a purple sheet of construction paper to give thickness to my collage. This was the first assignment we did in Epic Arts. And I believe the directive was to make an artwork or collage based on what represents resilience to us. So luckily, this was a day that I was able to physically follow the directive, and I love collaging. I love putting together. I find that that's an easy way to get started with less judgment and more inspiration to just find. We were directed to find anything around our house to put together that represented resilience to us. So what I did, I can describe some of what I have. I feel like I've developed a lot of resilience from navigating this world as a disabled person, and especially going through so many processes to try to advocate for myself in healthcare and take care of my health. So when I found pieces of paper on my desk that were old medical papers that I needed to file away or shred, then I decided, oh my gosh, I can use this as a basis. So I just used an appointment card. I used a note where I was writing down blood pressure. And then I found stickers with some affirmations on it. I found a piece of paper I wrote affirmations on. So I tore those and I put the different affirmations. I also used colors that were representative of how I felt when I had finally gained a resilience and made me feel more empowered. And then I also went through magazines, what I had at hand, and I put together images that helped represent what my journey has been. So this was probably the assignment that I enjoyed the most, because I felt like it was really therapeutic for me to have a representation of what it's like to kind of work through life as a disabled person. And I felt like that was a really good way to kick off the Epic Arts group.
Thank you so much for sharing. I absolutely love that directive, looking around your home and like the parallel of being resourceful with the items you have around you. And it just, again, communicates that you don't need fancy materials to make art and express yourself. And I'm so glad I got to hear more of the description of how that process was for you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think so many people can resonate with that and relate to just how that feels when you get to say your story, say part of what you've been through and share it with others. So thank you. I wanted to share with everybody a little bit of some tips for setting up this practice for yourself. You might be wondering, oh, when am I going to do that? It's so hard to find the time. Trust me, it is the struggle. I can relate to that very much. One thing, these are a couple of tips that I think can be really helpful. And the first one is that, of course, if you have the voice that says, I'm not good at this, you just keep reminding yourself over and over and over again that art is your first language, and that we all speak this art, and everyone is an artist. And when we're talking about creativity, we're not just talking about painting and drawing, right? There are so many different ways that you can express yourself. It could even be just, how you organize the plants on your shelf. So if you're not feeling the vibe of wanting to draw or paint or collage, remember that there's so many things around you, thinking about those aesthetics and how you can be mindful about maybe this time you set for yourself is doing something else creative, painting your nails, baking a cake. So I just want to be inclusive that it's, there's so many things involved in this. But then the tip number 2, right, is figuring out the mode of expression that makes you feel good. And I love that we went over so many good considerations about if something felt like wasn't accessible to you. Maybe you haven't figured out the thing that could really help, the suggestion, the adaptation that can make it work for you. And tip number 3 is just make the art. You don't need to finish. You don't need to like it. It can be ugly. It can be pretty. It can be angry. It can be sad. And really focus just on the making so that you can, number 4, find that flow. And that's just kind of minimizing your distractions. Maybe it's in a place where you don't have your computer nearby and it's not beeping at you. Making it a regular thing that might be carving a couple of hours in your schedule and just holding that frame. One thing you can do is go to Epic Arts or go to the storytelling, because we do that for you. And community is one of the best ways that you can do that, right? Find a buddy. This is the buddy system. So you can make art with others and designate your art space. I know that's very, very challenging. We don't always have the most space in our homes to do things like this, but a suggestion is to maybe find a bin where your art materials can live, so that the bin can kind of go with you from point A to point B. You could pop outside if you needed to, which could be really meaningful, making art with nature. You can bring it with you. So that's a consideration. And then number 7 is just checking in with yourself when you have mental blocks, and just acknowledge and accept, right? It's okay that sometimes you don't really feel creative. And a mental block can just be that you're really feeling tired, you're really feeling overwhelmed. And I think when you're experiencing those moments, it's time to just kind of step back and really grab a material that feels good, because really doodling, making swirls, just making dots on a page, writing words on a page, that is an art process, right? There doesn't always have to be that outcome. Here are some resources that we wanted to share with you at the end here, as we're kind of finalizing and closing up here, that there again is that link for the American Art Therapy Association. Maybe you're inspired. Maybe you want to be an art therapist after this conversation, or an art music therapist, or it's a drama therapist, right? That's a profession, right, Megwyn? Okay. And then Your Brain on Art was the book that I mentioned. And I am just absolutely very much into that book. I'm really excited about it. I think that evidence research really inspires and motivates me. And then Megan, what's this one here? BSA.
VSA is at the Kennedy Center. So it's the VSA, it's their Department of Arts Accessibility. The reason why I chose it for my resource is because they have so many different resources that are really focused on making the arts accessible, but also not for artists and for audiences. So they have wonderful programs. They have wonderful resources, including webinars. So if you're interested, if you're a person with a disability who is interested in a career in the arts, they have resources for you. If you're a teaching artist who would like to make your work more accessible, they have resources for you. If you just want to connect with a community around these topics, they have resources for you. I've been to their VSA Intersection conference a number of times now. Their LEAD conference is going on right now. They have a place where you can go and network. But again, they also have competitions for young playwrights, young musicians with disabilities. So again, there's really sort of an array of resources there that I think apply to a lot of different interests. So I think we've got about 10 minutes left. This has been such a pleasure talking about this. Do we have any questions? Or Dinewa, was there anything else you wanted to speak to on this topic?
Sure. Let me just look at my notes because I feel like we've covered so many wonderful things, and I just want to make sure I shared anything. Is there any specific questions you have for me before I go off the notes I have?
I think I'd love to know, I feel like you've spoken to this quite a lot, so I don't mean to make you repeat yourself, but I'm wondering if you can just summarize a little bit for us the value that you find in working in this way, working creatively in a number of different ways.
Okay, well, yeah, specifically being in Epic Arts has been, like, not to sound trite, but it's been incredibly helpful. I'm actually like losing adjectives to describe. It's just been a wonderful addition to my life. I have on the calendar every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I know that if I'm feeling well enough, and if I don't feel well, I love the flexibility and adaptability of the group that I can catch the session, record it. I love the fact that I can come, and if I have a migraine attack, I can be off screen and I can lie down if I need to. And I love the fact that the group is small enough that it feels welcoming, big enough that it feels I get to understand multiple different perspectives, even within the group. There are several people who have my exact same diagnoses, so I feel as if it's a very safe space with the members, and I really appreciate the way Amber makes it a space where we're free to just be us. I've done some art therapy before, and the biggest thing I think a lot of us are learning, even in this group, is how to be non-judgmental and how to be free with our art and free with ourselves. And I think that that's a really important lesson that I'm trying to learn how to take into my broader life. I really appreciate the fact that I have this set time a week for accountability, community, and solidarity in making art. I love how I'm able to share my art if I want in the group. I can share it and discuss it on our Discord if I want. I like the fact that I don't have to if I'm not feeling comfortable. And every week I know that if I can attend Epic Arts, I'm going to leave feeling better because it is therapeutic. It is grounding for me to be able to connect with where I am in the moment, to be mindful, to learn new ways to use materials I've known all of my life, to learn new ways to express myself. And another thing that has been great is since I'm still learning, and I can tell even other people in the group are learning how to make art that's adaptive to our specific needs, especially a lot of people with chronic illnesses have dynamic disabilities, which mean that sometimes, you know, we can pick up a pencil and draw a fine motor, you know, nature scene, and sometimes we cannot hold a pencil at all. And so I'm learning how to adapt my art to the various access needs I may need in the moment, and the different days I have different abilities. And that's something I'm hoping to explore more in the group and learn more about how to do the directives in a way that meet my needs, and in a way to help me, you know, better learn how to do that with my art process in general.
We have a question from the chat, which is, what are 3 ways you wish art creation could be more accessible for people living with a rare or chronic disease? So this is, I think, open to all 3 of us.
I really love the fact that we are providing something that's online. And I don't know that, I mean, there's a lot out there, but there isn't a lot of maybe groups specifically like ours, where it's not, you can participate if you want to, but you just don't have to. I think that that's one area like that we could see more of that, like reaching out for folks who have a you know, bigger difficulty getting to a location. I think that makes it really accessible.
I think from my perspective, what I don't, I think one, I'm just going to do one. One way that I wish art creation could be more accessible is, and this is for everyone, including people with disabilities with rare or chronic disease, I feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens with the arts, that there's gatekeeping that has to do with training. There's gatekeeping that has to do with aesthetics. And that emphasis is just exclusionary rather than inclusive. Mandating what is art, what is not, mandating like what is good art and what is not. I think, again, that gatekeeping, that sort of, I like thinking about aesthetics in that way. That one of the things that I really like is thinking about aesthetics that are uncertain, and aesthetics of uncertainty, where you can break away from some of those molds, right? And thinking about it in terms of the benefits of the process, the fact that art looks different to everyone. Everyone likes different things and finds different things satisfying. The fact that art can be so compellingly imbued with the life experiences of the artists. So I guess I just have one, but it's a big one. I would just do away with a lot of the gatekeeping that I feel like is part of the arts.
My perspective as a disabled person doing art, especially in settings where disability is centered, is I believe it would be very helpful for me, and I know it would benefit other disabled people as well, if accessibility was considered as a forefront and as a priority. As disabled people, we have to constantly advocate for ourselves to be able to even access life at a baseline. So it would make me feel more welcomed and included in any art setting if accessibility could be prioritized, like if when disabled people have to ask for every single access need to be met, it puts the work and the burden on us, and then it's hard to know, okay, is this even doable? Is this suggestion welcome? Is this something that's going to interrupt the process or be unwelcome by other people? So it really helps us to know that obviously every single person has different access needs, and the only way to make every person completely included is to know what they need. But it does help to be in spaces where accessibility is offered, when we're asked, what are your access needs? What can we do to make this Zoom call, to make this exercise, to make this session accessible for you? What different, given ideas for if we're learning how to make things accessible, given multiple ideas for how to do a directive, for how to work with the supplies we have based on our current access needs that sometimes change day to day, that putting accessibility at the forefront so that each disabled person feels open and welcome to share their access needs and know that they are supported in them, that is another thing that would, for me, make my art experiences just, I don't know another word for accessible, but it would just better make me able to participate in them.
One of the ways that one of the things that I have said in various workplaces is that accessibility is not an afterthought. It must be embedded in every element of what you're creating. I'm going to just speak a little bit more to my theme of tearing down the gatekeeping to say that a lot of times I'm concerned that groups, again, treat it as an afterthought. I was part of a theater group that wanted to make theater more accessible for the deaf community. So we wanted to broaden our audience by ensuring that the deaf community was that we had accommodations in place, that the deaf community knew that they were welcome in our theater. So we had ASL interpretation for our shows, but that really functioned as an afterthought. The thing that was successful was inviting the deaf community to be part of the creation of the theater performance, so that, again, from the outset, that perspective is embedded in every part of the production. The process ended with a dual English ASL production that, again, embedded accessibility into everything around the experience, because we brought the experience of the deaf community, the perspective of the deaf community into the room from the get-go. So I just sort of build on what you said to emphasize, again, that accessibility isn't an afterthought, it's foundational. We are at time. Dinewo, I'd love to give you sort of the last word of the live stream. But before I do, I'd just like to thank you so much for being part of this, and Amber, you as well. Thank you on behalf of me and on behalf of Our Odyssey.
Thank you so much. Yes, what you said about Epic Arts, it is giving me life. I'm so excited for tomorrow. Or that's Thursday. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Megwyn. Thank you, Amber, for including me on this live. It's been an amazing opportunity to be able to share what our Odyssey's programs have given me as a disabled young adult. It's amazing to be a part of this community where disability is prioritized and welcomed. And I'm really looking forward to, I'm new to Our Odyssey just with the creation of this group. I think I found out about it through an Instagram ad. So I'm thankful for the algorithm for bringing you all to me. And I'm very excited to further my art process and my healing process, and I'm I'm really excited to learn and discover more how to intertwine that with my lived experience as a disabled person, being able to express that for myself, for my creativity, for the way I relate to others as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
I'm ready to take on the world and take on the world with you. Are you ready to take on the world and take on the world with me? I am ready to take on the world. I am ready to take on the